Evening, lovelies. I'm home. Yay, it's good to be home. Um, while I was out doing DoorDash, Chris called and said that Kelly and Ruben planned on coming over and that I should drop by if I was done with DoorDash. So I had actually just started finishing up with DoorDash, and so went over there and had some finger foods and hung out with them, and then came home, caught up with Stormy, took a hot shower, started some laundry, and now I'm all nice and cozy, comfy in my bed. Um, it was a challenging day for me. It was a struggle. I battled, I think that what's happening is like Dr. David Hawkins says, when you're figuring things out and you're starting to make the improvements, or you're starting to do the whole letting go thing. Your small self, that small self, the ego starts to act up, and I think that's what it was doing today. Because I am getting better and better at letting go, and but man, I tell you what, today it was just on me. It was just on me. It was picking on me, and it's nasty stuff, like it was bringing up like my marriage and how I failed at my marriage, and how, you know, divorce is wrong, and how, and I'm like defending myself. I'm defending myself constantly all day. I felt like that's what I was doing all day, was defending myself to this small self. And no matter how I defended myself, no matter what I said, it didn't make any difference. It seems like the more I defended myself, the more I had to defend myself. It's like that whole what we resist persists. But yeah, that small self, it was persistent. It was persistent. It was not nice, and felt guilty about so many things. Like I didn't play with Oliver enough this weekend, and I didn't spend enough time with Tyler this weekend, and how come you divorced how come you even married your husband, your ex-husband? You didn't love him, and it's true. I was 19 years old. I didn't know what else to do, and so I got married out of high school. I don't know. And I try not to have regrets, because it's like Neville Goddard says, um regretting anything is like reinfecting yourself. And so, but how do you keep from allowing the ego to tax you like that? Because that's what it was. It was taxing. I mean, by the time it was said and done, I was exhausted. And finally, what had to happen, and then there's like my higher self, and she's like, oh my God. And I feel like the higher self and the subconscious are one and the same. And I feel like she was just like, because it was like we were bickering, me and that small self, we were bickering back and forth all day. And I feel like my higher self is just like, oh my God, what's wrong with this girl? Is she ever gonna get it? And I don't know. I hope I do. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get it. I think I'm closer than what I was before. But finally what had to happen was I was like, shut up. That's enough. No more. You can't do this anymore. I'm not letting you do this anymore. And I'm not going to. I'm not going to let it do it anymore, I have to find some way of, when it happens, to shut it down right then and there and take a completely different direction. And so that's kind of like my next goal. And I was talking to Chris last night, and he and this is kind of what I did after that whole thing. He was like, you do the DoorDash thing, because I told him I'd like to have a position. I'd like to have some kind of job where I'm like in service to somebody, where I'm serving, like. And he's like, well, why does it have to be your job? Why can't you just, be of service to people outside of your job? He's like, why not use your job to be, to be in service to people? He was like, you can, like, who's to say that when you interact with somebody and your intent before you go into that interaction is to try and make their day a little bit better? He's like, that's a service. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And that was wonderful advice. And so I remembered that. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. And so I started doing that after the whole thing. And I think it really helped. I think, because, people actually, they smiled and they're like, and so maybe that's a way to do it, just like, as soon as it starts, just be like, no, we're not going to go down this road. We're not going to go down this road again. It's going to stop now. And we're going to do this instead. And that's kind of what Neville Goddard talks about is, when you take a thought process a certain direction, you stop it and you said, okay, instead of thinking this, I'm going to think this instead. And it's going to be completely different. And I think you just have to kind of smother that small self. You have to smother it, because that fucking bitch needs to die. It does. It needs to die. Because it's either you or it. But, through the whole thing, I just, I had this realization that, shame and guilt is a horrible thing. And we use it it's so prevalent in the raising of a person that, it's nothing for like a government or a society to shame somebody because of the way they choose to live their life. If this girl wants to use birth control as a form of abortion, that's her right to do so. It's her path. And she's going to have to deal with the consequences of those actions. And I think that to me, I feel like how hypocritical to tell a woman, well, you can't abort a baby because, that's killing someone. You're killing someone. You're killing your own child. What's wrong with you? Okay, well, but then what about all these parents that, I don't know, willingly encourage their sons to go fight in wars that have no bearing on their future in this country? How many young boys have become cannon fodder and it being encouraged by a parent? How many of those young boys and women, girls, come home so mentally maimed that they can't even function in society anymore? Why is that okay? The hypocrisy is just disgusting. And so I feel like, well, you know what? When we can stop entering wars that we don't belong in, then maybe we can try and tell some female that she can't get an abortion or she can't use abortion as a form of birth control. You know what? I wouldn't do it, but that's my path. I don't feel like it's my place to tell somebody what they can or cannot do with their path, or, And so, we have this difficulty. We cannot, it's like we struggle with the whole live and let live concept. And rather than just letting somebody, if what somebody is doing, if they're not stomping in somebody's garden or trampling all over somebody's tulips, then live and let live, you know? And I feel like also, you know, I feel like when people do that, when that happens, when somebody is so focused on what their neighbor is doing, they're kind of neglecting themselves. And it's like the Bible says, you know what? Before you take that splinter out of your neighbor's eye, why don't you look at the mote in yours? You're neglecting yourself because you're so focused on what this person over here is doing. You know, get back to you. Get back to what's in here. And if you get back to what's in here, then you're not going to even concern yourself with that person over there, because it's not going to make any difference. They're living their life the way they want to live their life. And that's their right. Just like you're living your life the way you want to live your life. And you know what? Who's to say that what you're doing in your life is any better than what they're doing in their life? And it's just frustrating. It's frustrating because, you know, then it comes down to that individual and the battle with the ego. And I don't know, I just wish that instead of using shame and guilt to raise a person, we used love. I feel like if the way we raised a person was to genuinely nurture them, and nurture them in a way so that we would want their most truest and divine qualities to shine through, then guilt and shame would not be an issue in our environment. I don't know, it's just it was a difficult day, but I mean, I'm glad that it happened, because I feel like I did like this whole full circle thing. And, you know, looking back, I mean, when I was in the shower, I was like, why didn't I do the whole open thing? I could have done that. And that probably would have shut up that small self, that ego. It probably would have shut that up. But I don't know. But like I was saying, I feel like I came full circle in a way, because I feel like I'm one step closer to making sure that those kind of situations do not trip me up anymore, because I'm not a horrible person. And I really do feel like I've woken up, and that the path that I'm taking right now is probably the best path that I could ever even, like, I don't know. And it's weird, you know, I'm interacting with this person that, you know, I met kind of by accident. And, you know, their thought processes are very much similar to mine. And, you know, I'm having this dialogue with this person that, you know, they get what I'm saying, and that's crazy to me. And I feel like it's kind of like the universe kind of, you know, giving me a thumbs up, like saying, you know what, you're on the right track, and we're going to make sure that these are the type of people that you have to interact with often. You know, and like my interaction with Chris last night, that was an amazing conversation that him and I had. And it was, you know, it wasn't like, well, the weather is nice tonight, you know. It was a deep, intelligent conversation, you know. And Kayla was sitting there playing her Switch, and she would interject occasionally, but for the most part, you know, it was just a conversation between Chris and I. And it was very, you know, I just feel like, you know, the more I open myself up to these new ideas and this new thought movement, the more the universe is going to make sure that I have people in my life that understand those ideas and also encourage them. So, I mean, there's that. And, you know, I know tomorrow if that small self starts acting up and just be like, no, we're not going to do that today. We're going to do this instead. I'm just going to shut it up. Going to shut it up and move along, because I'm done letting it control my peace and my comfort and my mental health and my emotional health. So screw you, small self, you're done. But I'm gonna end this. It's almost 60 minutes, and I hope you guys have a great night, and don't forget to live abundantly.